Hush falls over the room. This is what Atlanta felt like this morning, didn't it? Well, I'm Scott Slade from WSB Radio. It's great to have you here today, and hopefully we can shed a little light into the gloom that we're all feeling today, those of us who have anything to do with Atlanta sports. And we have just the guy to do that for us today. Our WSB Live Lounge guest today is a longtime entertainment marketing veteran in the city of Atlanta, 14 years with the Turner Entertainment Networks, most recently serving as president. He spent a decade at the Coca-Cola Company, where he ran marketing and worldwide operations, and as VP of Coke Sports and Entertainment Marketing. Our guest was named Sports Executive of the Year by the Sports Business Council. He's a lifelong resident of Atlanta. He's on a number of prestigious boards that value his expertise. And now he's the Chief Executive Officer of the Atlanta Hawks Basketball Club, where he oversees all business, financial, and strategic operations of the Atlanta Hawks in Phillips Arena and represents the owners as head of the organization. Would you please welcome Atlanta Hawks CEO Steve Koonin. Steve.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
I'd like to congratulate you on the win over Orlando last night. We need to talk about a win here.
Yeah, I mean, this is awkward.
Well, tell me something. How do you fill a void like this that's left by this huge letdown by, this club that had so many of us hoping? And I was hoping. I went to bed at 9:30 last night. We're up 25 points. The Falcons were. How do you fill a void like that? Is there a ripple effect in the other sports franchises?
Well, I think you got to first start with a bunch of cliches, but I think time heal all wounds probably is apropos. I think losing is difficult on a city. The way we lost exacerbates how difficult it was. To your point, you went to bed, we were up by 25. Mm-hmm. People are sending texts, congratulations. The parade group was starting to work on the route and security, and it just got ripped away. And truthfully, as a native Atlantan, I hate the narrative. Loserville, here we go again, all of the negative things. And I do think that so much of sports is about emotion. We were talking before we went on the air how important it is to, recognize that sports really is the ultimate live drama. And in Atlanta, it's turning into a Greek tragedy instead of just a drama. And so we desperately need to win for our own psyche. I hope one day the Hawks will. I hope one day the Falcons will. Because you don't change the narrative until you win. And unfortunately, last night was a brutal loss. But I think time will heal that. But today is, I'm really happy about talking about sports today.
Yeah, well, I mean,
timing is everything.
It is. It is. So here we are into the breach, though. And what do you say to sports fans who are really feeling down this morning? A lot of people are crushed. One of our news people heard neighbors wailing out of their windows. Seriously, I mean, it's wailing out of their windows last night.
Well, sports are kind of one of the things that was so exciting and brought me to the Hawks was the opportunity to excite and unite the city of Atlanta through basketball. Mm-hmm. And we've had many nights and occasion and playoff games that have done that. If you think about what today would have felt like if we won, probably half the people wouldn't be here because they wouldn't be awake yet.
Yeah.
And the other half wouldn't know that they were here and not really care.
Right.
But the world tastes a little better when you win. We are competitive. We live in one of the top 10 markets in the country. We live in, I think, the best city in the world. But this is something that is very hard for people to process. And hopefully, anger doesn't prevail. I mean, I was listening to a little bit of sports talk on the way over here. When you were, obviously, I listened to WSB on the way over here, and your fine commercials also, but I was flipping around.
Thank you, our sales department.
Absolutely. There you go.
That's right.
And there's just, there's a tone that you just don't like to hear. It is akin to a death. And I think it was the death of a dream, and hopefully we'll be back to that dream some way, shape, or form in the not too distant future.
We're advising people this morning on the grief process, to be honest with you. Get some exercise, get in your routine, talk about it with your friends, and look to the future. Really, you got to start looking at the future. We even looked up the word pall this morning, Pall.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a shroud over a coffin. And there was a pall over Atlanta this morning.
Well, and again, it's the way you lost.
Yeah.
When you start hearing people, I would have preferred to have had this or had that. It's the way we lost. It's who we lost to. And I think it's the size of the national stage that we lost on that I think is embarrassing. But you know what? The weather's still going to be great. The housing's still beautiful. The traffic will be there.
Yep.
The restaurants will be fabulous.
Right.
But it'll take a little while to recover.
And we can start looking ahead at some great things for the Atlanta Hawks. This is one of the reasons we have you here today. Let's dig into some of that. Do you mind?
I'd love to.
State-of-the-art practice facility, D-League team, major arena renovation, high-profile players. How do these all factor into the long-term vision for the Atlanta Hawks?
Well, talking about championships is really not what I probably should be doing today, but you need all those tools and those ingredients to bring a championship, and our ownership is determined to bring a championship to Atlanta. And so a practice facility, as innocuous as that sounds, it literally is health and wellness of players, and it's sports science. These are the greatest athletes in the world, both aerobic and physical skills, and what they're able to do is amazing, but it's a business of injuries. So if you can keep your players healthy, we are partnering with a company called P3, which probably none of you have ever heard of, Peak Performance Project, because most people with us today aren't elite athletes. This is where the Olympians go to train. This is where the best of the best go to train. And they have the ability, run by a bunch of Harvard-educated doctors led by Marcus Elliott, to forecast where you have the highest opportunity to be injured and start working and building that muscle and train your body against that injury. So it's a little bit like AI, the Tom Cruise movie from a decade ago. So they're able to predict. And then with the incredible doctors at Emory Orthopedic and Spine, we believe we can extend players' careers. And when you extend their career, you extend their earning power. And by having that competitive difference and extending their earning power, we become more attractive. So you take the city, you take the medical, you take the franchise and the ownership and leadership, and now you have the recipe for long-term success.
Okay, so it even will it will improve the pedigree of the team when you get right down to
significantly.
Breaking ground last June in the Emory Sports Medicine Complex. Can you give us a progress report on that?
Oh, it's fabulous. We toured it last Friday. It's 90,000 plus square feet on 6 acres. I thought it was a Kroger. It was so big, and what's very cool, and it's one of a kind literally in the world, our players will enter from the right side of the building, and then our weekend warriors, somebody who sprained an ankle, tennis elbow, will come in and see the doctors on the left side. So the whole first floor is Hawks. It's our operations group. It's our basketball and coaches. And most importantly, it's our players' training and wellness. And then on the second level are the Emory doctors, 28 exam rooms. And for our players, we have an elevator that goes straight from the court to a private exam room. So if somebody gets injured, they will see a doctor within 30 seconds.
Holy cow.
So
So
incredible.
You're about 8 months into this. Any completion date?
Yeah, November of 17, when the season starts, we'll be moving in.
Oh,
and so we think that's a big advantage. And another thing that happens, Atlanta's the #2 market for NBA players to live, behind Los Angeles. And so we've built a third entrance to the building that will be for NBA players only, with a code that only players will have, so they can go into the building anytime to practice, to play scrimmages, to hang out and be with other players. And we believe, again, this is an important ingredient and tool to making players see that the Atlanta Hawks are doing everything first class.
That's fascinating. I had no idea this was going on, did you? This is really something. And speaking of things going on, the reimagining of Phillips Arena, another major project, which will obviously benefit the fans. Some still think of this arena as new now. Well, why was this the right time to do this?
Well, there are 2 reasons. One, while the arena chronologically is not very old, it's only 17, going on its 18th year, It's architecturally dysfunctional. And what we mean by that, there have been 20 arenas built since ours, and none followed the same blueprint. Not a good thing. All the suites on one side. You cannot walk a concentric circle about our arena. You have to be in the bowl to see the action. And since 1997, when it was on the drawing board, to today, our society has changed significantly. And going to a sports event today is not a sit in your seat, eat a hot dog, drink a beer experience. It is social, it is fun, it is connected, and a lot of it spent walking around and, you know, entertaining clients. So our building is in a great place, the heart of downtown Atlanta, and we have big plans for the area around our arena to make it an entertainment hub, and I'll talk about that in a second. But our building is inspired by the Beltline. It's connected, it connects different areas and communities, it has plenty of different offerings of seating options, and it's for everyone and it's open to everyone, rather than today, if you don't have a ticket, you can't go here. That doesn't make sense, that's not Atlanta.
For those who are listening, I'm Scott Slade from WSB Radio. We're talking to Hawks CEO Steve Koonin. You mentioned the younger demographics in an offhand way. You know, talk a little bit about appealing to millennials, growing new fans.
Well, I'm a native Atlantan, which is rare. We don't breed well in captivity. And the NBA is very representative of the times. It's loud, it's athletic, it's fashion, it's social media. And when we were looking and saying, where can we go build a generation of fans to build long-term support, young people gravitate to the NBA. So we've changed our social media voice. I know we're being streamed live, and the world of technology has enabled so many more ways to communicate. We sell tickets not online. We have what's called Ballin' on a Budget. We have a program where for a Netflix-type subscription, every game you get a ticket on your phone when you're a mile away from the arena.
It pops up automatically.
Comes up automatically. Wow. When you're geo-targeted a mile away from the arena, and it's surprise and delight. If we have something on the 5th row, that's where you might be tonight. And if it's something against Golden State, you're going to be up where you'll be ducking airplanes, but you'll be in the building. And so talking to this new generation and building, because most of y'all are from somewhere else. And so in Boston, if you're a de facto Celtic fan, and in Atlanta, we want to make you a de facto Hawks fan, but that takes a lot of work and a lot of ingenuity. So we just think starting young and celebrating the diversity of our city and the youth of our city is a key growth ingredient. And so far, it's working very, very well.
You touched on the entertainment value of a Hawks experience, and not just the game itself. And you guys have done a heck of a job with pre-game concerts and post-game concerts. How have the Hawks been able to do that and pull that off so well?
Well, I think it's in the DNA of the NBA. It's about pop culture. 6 of the top 10 most famous athletes in America are NBA players. And our customers want and demand more than just the traditional experience. And so our mantra is true to Atlanta. And Atlanta is the cradle of hip-hop and Southern hip-hop. And a lot of our artists who perform for us, they enjoy being in front of 19,000 people on a stage, and they enjoy giving back, and there's always a connection to the community.
It's their home crowd.
It's their home crowd, and it's a great showcase, and we have a wonderful TV footprint for the market. We're in the entertainment business, and sports is entertainment, and entertainment is sports. They are very commingled today. Who are people talking about the Super Bowl? Lady Gaga. You know, her performance last night. It is all part of today's sports scene.
How about some plans here to retire Pistol Pete Maravich's number in March? Tell us about that.
So, generationally, there's probably a lot of young people who have no idea who he is, but because of YouTube, they've discovered him. Pete Maravich played for LSU in the late 60s, early 70s. He averaged 40-plus points a game in the college game, which is significantly shorter than the pro game, with no three-point line. And he probably was the greatest ball handler and shooter. But more importantly, when he played in Atlanta, it helped make us a major league city. It brought a lot of attention. And so the NBA voted in 1998 Pete Maravich one of the 50 greatest players in the history of the NBA. And yes. And one of the things that we want to do as we're re-envisioning the Hawks is celebrate our heritage. Sports has a huge amount of heritage in its DNA. And Atlanta sports don't have enough. And so we felt that honoring Pete and exposing our young audience and a new generation, both to the look of the uniforms and to the quality of the man, was important. So on March 3rd against the Cleveland Cavaliers, we're going to be honoring Pistol Pete Maravich.
Anybody know the number?
44.
44. At least, sir, this number anyway.
That is true. That
It was,
true.
okay. Yeah, we got
Very
two
well
winners. I've heard you say on several occasions that one of the main goals of the Atlanta Hawks is to be a community asset. Let's talk about that just a little bit here. Next month, the Mosaic Conference, Sports is a Catalyst for Social Change, and Mosaic is the acronym for Model of Shaping Atlanta Through Inclusive Conversations. Why do you feel like this is a good fit for a sports team?
Well, I think that there's no boundaries on what we can do. And I said earlier, our mission is to excite and unite the citizens of Atlanta. And so excite a lot of times happens on the court. Unite doesn't have to happen on the court. And so by having a symposium like Mosaic allows us to talk about race and gender in sports. And the only way we fix our differences is to talk about them. Our ownership has been very aggressive in investing into building community assets. Like, for example, we are building 25 state-of-the-art basketball courts in underserved neighborhoods throughout Atlanta. We've built 9 now. And where we have built them, anecdotally, crime has gone down and truancy has gone down.
That's great. That's great. Yeah.
We are saying to neighborhoods that, quite candidly, are not great season tickets, and maybe nobody in that community would ever even buy a ticket. But we're saying you matter, you're important, and having a place for physical exercise is one thing. But we also look at them for town squares in those communities. We're bringing health services. We're bringing vision services. We'll help kids get eye exams. Can you imagine, Scott, being a third grader and you can't see the board? You and I both wear glasses. You don't have a future. So we're going to come into your community. We're going to give you an eye exam. And if you need it, we're going to give you glasses, all for no charge.
Really?
And so it's connecting to our communities. It is bringing services to these communities. And it's saying to these young people that you matter and somebody cares. And that's what a community asset does. So we want to continue to build and continue to do this. And like I said, we're 9/25ths of the way done. We committed 25 courts in 5 years. And so we'll be opening, I think, 6 more courts this year.
So it sounds like, too, this is an ongoing program. You're not going to build a court and leave.
No. And then we bring back clinics and we bring back dance contests and we bring back. And so it's to build these platforms all over town and program them and help these communities become better communities, safer communities, smarter communities, and healthier communities.
We're talking to Steve Koonin, the Atlanta Hawks CEO. We're going to get a couple of questions from the audience here. We'll have some time on that, so you all keep in mind if you'd like to ask the guy who knows. You guys are 5 games back right now. At least that's what the standings showed me this morning.
Well, we're 5 games behind the number 1 seed, Cleveland, but
Okay.
we're a game behind number 2, Boston.
Okay.
And that's where we got our eyes set.
There you go. Very good. You got some major matchups on the way. How does the team plan to finish out the year strong, both on the court and off? Obviously, you want to win some games.
Well, it's been a very unique year. We've beaten all the best teams. We've beaten Cleveland. We've beaten Houston twice. We've beaten really, really good teams. And then some nights we've kind of slipped up against the Lakers and a few others that, quite candidly, you would think would have fallen into the win column for us. But that's the brilliance and beauty of sports. It is truly unpredictable. And so I'd like it to be a little more predictable.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that we continue our winning ways. We're 9 games over 500, which is the best we've been at the year. The All-Star break is next week. And I think we're going to finish very, very strong. We have 8 home games in March.
What kind of reaction did you get with the send-off that you all did for the Falcons? That had to be just a wonderful cross-brotherhood kind of event.
So the Falcons are our neighbor. They're our friends. And their players attend a lot of our games, and our players attend a lot of their games. In fact, I think we had a couple of guys out in Houston that I hope they got back for practice, or it's going to be an expensive trip for them if they're not back. I hope they got back. And working with Steve Cannon, the CEO of Arthur Blank's Properties, and Rich McKay, we said, can we do a send-off on a Friday night? And so 16 players came. We brought them out at halftime with our halftime entertainment of Little Yachty. Falcons were on the court, and I will tell you, they got the loudest ovation in the building, and deservedly so. This city loves football. This city loves competing. And we need to continue to build championship cultures in our city and celebrating the Falcons and bringing these guys together. I was fortunate enough to go to the big win over Green Bay, and we took Tim Hardaway and Dwight Howard with us, and a few of the guys wanted to go. And it makes a difference. And we are all in this together. We are all Atlantans. So we love that our guys are so active, and we love that the Falcons want to come to our games. So we feel their pain, but we also celebrate their accomplishments.
Couple of questions from the audience. Anyone have anything you'd like to ask the Hawks CEO before I ask a couple of wrap-up questions? We'll get a microphone over here to you. Frank?
Hi, Frank Duffy with Duffy Realty. First of all, Steve, I'm really a big fan. 2 compliments and a question. First of all, what you did for the Falcon send-off was fantastic. I was fortunate enough to have floor seats that night, and it really was genuine, and it was very well put together. Also, the product that you guys have put on the court, not only on the court but in the stands for the last 2.5 years, has been really exceptional. Or to use an old NBA slogan, fantastic. My question to you is, are you seeing the effect of maybe putting together that players' village, if you will, a way to bring in free agents here to actually play with the Hawks? Because I think that's really the missing piece to get a high, prominent free agent to come in, and that could turn our fortunes around drastically.
Well, first of all, Frank, thank you for the first 2 compliments. They're much appreciated. It is a key strategic thrust for us, but it doesn't happen overnight. And what I mean by that is we have to have the practice facility. We have to offer the best physical training with a partner like Emory. We have to have an incredible city, which we check that box in a really big way. And so this is the number 2 market for active NBA players and retired NBA players. So we want them to stay here, and we want them to play here. And now we have the resources, the amenities, the ownership and leadership to make that happen. So that is a big part of our plan. But the way, without getting too technical, the way the collective bargaining agreement goes, it now rewards you for drafting, picking, and retaining your players. So that skill of evaluating players and bringing our own stars and cultivating our own stars becomes more and more important. And you see a guy like Tim Hardaway that last year didn't play the first 20 games, bounced into the D-League, and now he's coming off the bench or he's starting where needed and just playing tremendous basketball for us. So hopefully he's a star of the future, and there's a lot more coming.
Hey, Steve, thanks for coming out to see us. I guess my question is, several teams have different approaches. Some of them like to tank and build up talent through the draft. Seeing as how you put together a competitive product on the floor day in, day out, which as a fan, I think a lot of us are very appreciative of, how difficult is it to build a championship caliber team without a top 5, a top 10 pick that would normally turn into a superstar when you're normally in the mid parts of the draft?
It's incredibly difficult to do, and the only way that you do that is by building assets. And we have the 4th most number 1 draft picks of any team. We have Minnesota's number 1 draft pick. We traded Kyle Korver for Cleveland's number 1 draft pick, and we have all of our own number 1 draft picks. So we have 7 draft picks in the next 4 years, number 1 draft picks. While hopefully we stay good and competitive, that we wouldn't be in the lottery. And you're talking about how some of the other teams have taken a very difficult path that, quite candidly, I don't think works in Atlanta. I think we might be able to package a lot of assets together and move up significantly in the draft. And so the whole idea is to have enough cards in your hand to play the right card at the right time, but you have to have them in your hand. And that's what we're building right now. So we need to be good, and we have a good team. The hardest thing that I've learned in sports, and they've talked about my background, is that only one team wins a championship. There are no, look at the way we all feel today. We finished second. Yay. You know, there's no prizes for second in most sports. There are a little in the Olympics, but hard to name silver and bronze medal winners. So to be the best, we have to have the best resources, the best athletes, and we have to have the best coaching, which I think we do. And so it's about building assets and then making the right moves and setting ourselves up. And you can see our young players are emerging as stars. Dennis Schroeder never started before in the NBA. The last 25 games, he's as good a guard as there is in the league. And so I think it will take time. I don't think it's overnight, but I do think we're on the right path to having sustainable, long-term, incredible success. That's what we're trying every day.
Have you heard anything at all about a Falcons celebration? Or at all, you were checking with some of your security people before our conversation to see if there might be something.
I don't think the parade will go on as planned for tomorrow. I'm not announcing anything on behalf of the Falcons, but the meeting about the parade was canceled this morning.
Okay.
So
right. We'll keep our ears open just in case. Thank you. Didn't mean to put you on the spot there. Any thoughts of following the Falcons model and redoing how you handle food and beverage, maybe slashing prices, having special nights like that? Is that something in the cards?
Well, we do something called loaded ticket that a lot of our tickets come with a food and beverage allowance in it. I think the most important thing for us is to widen our variety of different food and beverage options and take advantage of the incredible food scene that's in this town. So we went out to Sacramento a few weeks ago to see their brand new facility, and they feature something called Fork to Table. And every single thing sold in that arena is within 90 miles of Sacramento, grown 90 miles. Well, except for my wife's garden, I'm not sure there's much produce grown within 90 miles from Atlanta. And we haven't gotten but like 3 tomatoes in 7 years, so it's not that productive. If you're listening, honey, I apologize. I just got a text. I think she's listening. And so we're talking to some top chefs about a food story, and it's very, very important. You know, again, today's customer has changed. They want a night of entertainment. They want to bring clients to the game, and it's not the experience it was. And so the Falcons have some of Atlanta's best restaurants, and I think we'll have some of Atlanta's best food also.
Any ETA on getting the Phillips Arena reimagining done?
We should open in the 18. We're not going to close because there's not an alternative to play. So we're going to work during summers, really hard, really fast. And so we believe that in the 18-19, towards the end of the 18-19 season, we'll be completely done. There'll be a little dust for a while, but we are going to be open, and things are going to be really, really exciting. We'll be making announcements over the next few months as deals come together of all the great amenities, but there's some very cool ideas we're working on.
We can't wait to hear about that. Okay, before we let you go, wrap-up question. What have we left out? What do we need to know about the future of the Atlanta Hawks?
Well, I think I can speak for only the Hawks, but I do think sports in Atlanta are an important piece. They help give us an identity. They help give us something to cheer for. They help sometimes distract from our problems, and sometimes they create our problems. But they're short term. And I think we all love and celebrate the competitiveness. And we are very fortunate to live in an amazing city. And we want to perform for you, but we also want support from people in Atlanta. We want you to come out. We want you to have fun. And it's a world of entertainment options. And the biggest competition we have is your sofa. 60-inch TV, no lines, no traffic. I'm selling the wrong way. But the reality is we want to make the experience so great in person that you want to be a part. You know, they said the VCR would ruin movies and the DVD would ruin movies. Right. And, you know, sports have become America's pastime. And we just want to offer a great experience and a great team. Our mantra is true to Atlanta, and everything we do, we want to be true. We want to be authentic and inclusive, and we want to feature the Atlanta spirit and innovation. And hopefully we're on a good start to that, but we have a long way to go. So I just want to thank the fans and thank you, Scott, for having us today.
It's wonderful. Thank you for all the great news about the future of the Atlanta Hawks. Steve Koonin, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. It's a pleasure. Yeah, great conversation. Thank you all for coming.